This is an Ask Brothers production. Follow us on Twitter at The Ask Brothers. Get all our content on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and SoundCloud at Ask Bros. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Well, hey, we're back. We're back from Christmas break. People sent me messages. They said, we've missed 4 podcasts or 4 or 5 games, and it's been the best 4 or 5 games in the history of Arsenal. We're gods of football. We're going to win the league. Why didn't we podcast?
I promise not to send you any more messages.
All of them were from Darren, who is also our one listener, despite being on the show. And I wrote back to people and I said, look, Christmas is a time for getting fucking drunk and wanting to belt your children, not for getting up at 7:30 in the morning and doing podcasts. And besides the fact, when the games are every 2 days, it's so much hard fucking work to do it. So anyway, we didn't do it because we couldn't be fucked, and we don't get paid for doing this. We only really do it because we enjoy it in a cathartic manner. So fuck you for anyone who was disappointed that we didn't podcast. We're here podcasting now, which is amazing. As always, I'm joined by Darren, the Deli Gooner.
Well, the thing is, for me, is obviously it was either doing a podcast or building Lego. So I think Lego comes first.
Mate, I built fucking glitter.
How do you build glitter?
Because you're going to make it. It comes in a pack, right? And you've got like the base, and then you add the color to make the color that you want.
So you made glitter, not build it.
No, well, I built it.
How do you build glitter? It's not a fucking house. You can't build
because
it.
Building and making is the same thing.
No, it's not.
Okay, was this pen made or built?
It was made.
Bollocks, you can build a pen.
How?
Define build.
Like build a house, build a structure. That's not a structure or
that's just
anything to, that's not a structure, is it? It's a fucking pen. It's made.
Do you build or do you make a computer?
I build a computer. Because it's a structure.
It's not a fucking structure.
It is. Have you seen mine?
Bollocks.
I built that.
You fucking made that then by your own definition.
No, I built it. There's a difference. Learn fucking English, you Aussie cunt.
Darren, I advertised this podcast to some people over the last few weeks, people who got in contact with me, my old people I used to do the podcast in India for. And I said, yeah, you should listen to it. It's fun. Let's just hope they turned up 10 minutes late for this one, shall we?
I often tell people to just skip through the first 10 minutes of the podcast anyway.
You don't often start with an argument.
No, either starts with an argument or it starts with some kind of analogy to do with a hand job or a dick. That's the general.
Or someone's a cunt.
You're always the first voice we hear.
Predictable, if nothing else. Darren, we're going to win the league?
Well, let me just say this. I think the last time we did a podcast, which was a while ago now, not just Christmas, just reasons that we couldn't get together, generally you, Max, but we sat together. It was probably 6 weeks ago, did a podcast. We just lost to Manchester United and Everton. I was calling it a bump in the road, and you two were throwing your toys out the pram and both wanted the manager sacked. Okay, since we last did that podcast, yes, this is the Oracle speaking. Since we last did that podcast, we've won 5 times, lost narrowly to the champions elect, scored 20 goals, conceded just 4. Am I the Oracle? And are you two just a pair of miserable cunts? Or have I missed something?
Well, even a broken clock, Darren, is right.
Twice a day.
So, if you keep talking shit to the point where I'm actually convinced.
Surely it's got to be more than twice. I'm not a broken clock. I'm actually convinced
you need to employ a small Filipino boy to walk around after you with a damp cloth, rubbing the shit from your chin as it trickles from your mouth. But for once, Darren, that shit has come to fruition. So I will give you that much.
Do you two feel embarrassed by your toy
No,
throwing?
because Mike and I have always held the same line. I think, Mike, I can I'm going to speak for you here.
All right,
Just
let
for
me
a
speak
change.
for you both. Oh, we're all doomed. We're doomed.
No,
We're
it's never what we.
doomed.
I think what Mike and I said, right, and what Mike and I have said from the start of the year was that credit where credit is due, and fucking what's the opposite of credit? Criticism.
That's
Where
not the opposite of
criticism
credit.
is due.
Debit is the opposite of credit. Okay.
So we
He
have
doesn't
been
speak English, does he?
we have been full of praise when we have been good, and we have been full of criticism when we have been bad.
Game
And
by
in those,
game.
in those, yeah, absolutely. You look at it game by game. And Darren, this is how you don't get ahead of yourself. And this is how you don't become the quintessential disappointed Arsenal fan. Now, Dan Potts and Lee Judges, right? They're friends of ours. We know them. We've spoken to them. You know, I watch
Dan
them
Potts
now.
has been on this show.
Right? Potts has been on the show many times. And I'm like, Dan Potts must literally be eating his own shit right now. He must be tasting the flavor of his own shit. And you know why? Because he went too deep. Dan went too deep down the Mikel Arteta, I don't like you, everything is shit train. And now train,
you know, look, I
now
don't know
they're
the
publicly
guys.
having to reverse that train. I don't feel like I've got to reverse that train because I've prefaced everything I've ever said with, I hope for the best. When we're bad, I'll say we're bad. And when we're good, I'll say we're good.
But isn't
Game
there
by
a...
game,
Go
Darren.
on,
Game
Mike,
by
go on,
game.
say something, Mike. Go on, talk.
No. I was just saying, we said it from the start. We're going to take it game by game, and we have taken it game by game. When you turn around and say we're all doomed and stuff, I don't remember either of us saying that we're doomed.
Listen to the last podcast we did. I spent an hour arguing with you two that you've got to look at a longer pitch here. This is a project. It's a project that we all have to buy into. And it's so exciting. This is the best project, the best Arsenal I've watched for 15 years. I mean, this is the best. It has been so miserable for year after year after year. And you can see what they're trying to do here. And with the young side, there's going to be times where it's going to be disappointing. So that's the time you really need to get behind this team and see the projects and get behind them. The fans at the Emirates are doing it. I have never known a better atmosphere at the stadium. Never.
Darren, how many games have you been to recently?
Well, I've been to every home game.
I'm going to Spurs away.
Can we have some insight, Darren, into, because Mikel Arteta keeps talking about the relationship between the team and the fans, and he keeps saying in his press conferences that the team is delivering for the fans and the fans in turn are delivering for the team. Is that palpable, Darren? Can you feel that in the stadium?
So.
And can you explain to me what the difference is, if you can put it into words, what the difference is?
Of course I can
in
put
the
it into
atmosphere
words.
when
That's
it's
what
up.
I do. There's some real big mitigating factors. COVID has really helped. It's killed a lot of old miserable bastards. And it's scared off. And it's scared off a load of old miserable bastards. There is a definite demographic shift in that stadium by 10 years at least downwards. Yeah. So first of all, you've got people going to that stadium for the first time. This is really important. So there's a good, I would say 10 to 15, maybe even 20% of the audience has changed. There's those people who really didn't like going to football, but they didn't want to give up their season ticket to Arsenal, who have decided to quit. There's a lot of old, miserable people who just want to sit down and be entertained. They haven't come back to the stadium. So it's been refreshed. And the people that you have there now are there to support the club. And then what you can see is effort and a plan. You can really see it. And the crowd from the first to the last minute are 100% behind that side. We go a goal down, we get a goal conceded against us these days, the fans start singing. For the last 10 years at that stadium, we go a goal down and it's Xhaka's a cunt, you know, and he's a cunt and he's rubbish and he shouldn't go. Yeah. And I'm not even going to, I won't even take it with Xhaka.
All of those things are true.
No, do you know what? You, Max, we've been doing this podcast for a few years now. You've heard me for years. I'm not Xhaka's biggest fan. I'm really not Xhaka's biggest fan. But I look at what I see, and he's been playing well. He's still got a Xhaka-ism in him, yeah. But he has been playing well. You look at the marks out of 10 on any website, whether it be the BBC, Arsblog, Xhaka is always at the bottom of the Arsenal scoring because that's our blind, blinkered view of football. Watch what you're seeing. Watch that football. Watch those young kids work their nuts off for this side. and you get excited about this project. It is not going to be a short-term thing. We are talking probably the end of next season before we see
So,
the
Darren,
real fruits of this.
just very quickly back to the crowd. So the team, you're saying that the crowd is up for two fundamental reasons. Number one, the crowd can see a plan. And if the Arsenal, you're telling me that if the Arsenal fans can see a plan, if they can see the effort, if they can see the structure, then they're much more resistant to negativity. And two, you're saying that a lot of the negativity was a cohort of old, miserable bastards who they'd had too much pain. They'd gone to too many games and paid for too many games. Or are you saying it's a generational thing? And that now that you've got a younger generation of football fans...
When it's younger, it's different. There is a palpable difference in the atmosphere. The people that are there. I can even say, put it down, something I wrote, we probably want to talk about at some stage, safe standing, which has been brought in. Where I sit, I'm at the corner flag in the Emirates, in sort of what the North Bank and the East Side would be. I'm in that corner. I'm in the corner flag. We are right in the worst situation where, for the last 5 years, we sit down, we stand up, we sit down, we stand up, because it's one of those that when it gets exciting, people will stand up, we all stand up. But generally, we sit down. Now, the block that I'm in and the block to my left, which was always seated, have stood every game for the last 8 matches. We stand and watch football. Now, I know that sounds a little silly.
I can't sit down and watch football, even when I watch football in my
agreed.
living room. I'm standing.
Yeah, me too. But what I'm saying is that football hasn't been like that. We have sat down, stood up, sat down, stood up. Now, I didn't sit down for the last 6 matches. We've been standing. There is a whole different atmosphere there. And when I talk about a plan, we've talked that Arteta's taken a long time to get to something that we can identify with. But it's watching the players give every ounce of effort, and every player give every ounce of effort. There's no Ozil in that side. There's no Alexis Sanchez. There's all those players that, we're not talking about how good or bad these players are. We're just talking about players that sometimes didn't buy into it. And you can see Emery had the problem. Arteta's had the problem where you've got 3 or 4 players. Aubameyang is the latest, where they just don't really buy into this project. But what you can see now is every week, every single player working their nuts off. I'm not getting carried away with this. We've just been beaten by Manchester City, and everyone goes, "Oh, that was great," and it was probably our best performance for 15 years. But we played a Manchester City side that had played 48 hours before. They were knackered. We were at home. We were much, much better than them, and we still lost. Yeah. So I'm not getting carried away. There is a young team here that's going to have to learn from these mistakes. Another bump in the road. There's going to be a lot of them over the next year. But there's something that everyone is getting behind. And as you said to me the other day, Max, it was the worst thing you could have ever said to me. You support with your head, not your heart. Well, don't bother, because if you want to be an analyst, then get a computer and look at the numbers. To be an Arsenal fan is about passion and heart and tribalism. And that's back at the stadium. And it has to get spread out to all you people who can't get to the games that I'm fortunate enough to get to. Get behind them. Get excited by this project. I love it. Loving it. This season, I'm enjoying football more than I've enjoyed football since the really successful Wenger sides of the mid-20s.
All right, then. I guess
we just end the podcast now.
We should just fuck off.
Yeah, that's it.
Because that's covered everything.
No,
from the last 4 weeks.
I will. I'll stick my. I'm gonna say I'll stick my 10 pence in here as well. Like saying about fans and stuff. I've been to a few away games this season. I'm going to our next away game in the league, which is Tottenham away. I've actually got a ticket for that.
How do you get tickets? I deserve a ticket for that.
It's not.
Get me a ticket.
It's not what you know; it's who you know, mate.
Yeah, I know. And I only know you.
But no, it's it's so. But I can vouch for what Darren's saying about the fans and stuff. There is a completely different aspect in the way the fans have been this season so far, and I've had a conversation with quite a fair few people I know who's been to away games this season and said the same. The away fans and even the home fans, it's changed dramatically this season compared to last season. How much it's changed in the stadiums and stuff. It's fantastic, and being a part of that as well is brilliant. Getting up and singing. And when you say sitting down and stuff, I've never sat down at an away game. To be fair. The only time you do sit down is probably at half time when you can't be bothered to go get a pint or a drink or something. You just sit down on there, and then as soon as everyone's back, it starts kicking off. You stood up again and you're watching. So,
I will say,
yeah,
just to try, but you're right. The away fans, it has always been slightly different. I'm lucky enough to go away occasionally, and it generally people do stand up at away games, and it is the real passionate tribal supporters that
it's a condensed version of the Emirates now. What it is now, whereas before it totally really wasn't. You know, you'd still got the singing and everything with the away fans, but it wasn't. You know, I can't explain it. The way it's changed, it's brilliant at the minute with being an away fan and going to these games and stuff. Obviously, I haven't been able to get to the Emirates this year. I don't know when I will be going to the Emirates this year, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'd like to be able to experience a home game. To be honest,
tickets for the last 6 games. So if you ever want to go, it's a
like I say, I've got plenty of contacts and avenue there as well. There's another one it's even better for me. It's always a case of getting tickets, so I'm never without one, if I'm being honest, and it's nice to have. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So Mike, what's your, I guess, as we enter the new year and we are in the position that we're in, and taking all of the things that we saw last year into account. So we saw obviously a period of poor form, followed by a period of form, followed by a couple of games of very, very difficult now to answer the questions of why those 2 games were poor in Everton and Man U, into another run of good form as well. If we just take the year as a whole, 2021 as a whole, and not projecting forwards, not projecting ourselves into what we're going to finish and where we're going to finish, but if we just look at this year as a whole, if you had to give Arsenal a grade this year, what's your grade for Arsenal and what's your justification?
Well, yeah, like we said before, criticism where criticism's due, and obviously praise where it's due as well. Obviously, yeah, I think more to the point. Last time we did a podcast, I was just trying to wind Darren up with it all, to be honest with you. You know, he's a very positive person, so I just like to be that negative just to wind him up even more. But so I probably did go a bit over the top on a lot of it. So, but I've been impressed this season so far. If we're going to say, for argument's sake, we're in January now, we're at that halfway point of the season. What I would say the halfway point of the season is, even though it's technically it's not, is it? Because how many games we played so far? We're at 20 games, so you know, so it is. You know, like last game would have been technically the halfway point. So, if I'm being honest, I wasn't expecting us to be in the position as we are now. I was probably, if I was going to say where I thought we would be at this point in the season so far, I'd probably say between 6 and 10 in that round mark. I'd expect us to be there. I thought we did, you know, that's what I thought we would be at the end of the season as well. So to be where we are now at the halfway point of the season, being in 4th and looking really strong, played 20 games, we've got 35 points. We're a point above West Ham, who's below us, and then we're 2 points from Tottenham, who we got next in the league. So that's, if we win that game, that's just going to put us further away from him, even though they've got 2 games in hand. But if I was going to grade it, grading it for me, it's got to be at least an A-. You know, no one expected us.
This is what I wanted from you, Scunny, because it's got to be an A.
It's got to be. It has to be.
It's above expectation.
It was above No, Darren's nodding there, but it's above expectations for where I thought we was going to be at this moment in time. So Darren can go. It'll be an A star and whatever else. That's up to Darren. But for me,
I'm a C+.
Oh, you're such
who's being negative now?
That's not negative.
Yeah, but you know why, Scunny? Because he thought we were going to win the fucking league. Right? You and I thought, and this is the thing about perception. This is the thing about different fans. And I try and convey this sometimes on Twitter. If you've got fans who go into a game thinking we're going to win 5-0 and we win 1-0, you know, there are certain sections of fans who would be upset by that 1-0 because they would say, well, why aren't we going out and putting 4 goals against Norwich or 5 goals against Norwich? They think the pass mark is, well, because Norwich is a poor team, because they're bottom of the league, you got to put 5 on them. So therefore, you know, if it's not 5 goals win, then it's not an A. And if it's a 1-0 win, then it must be a C. And this is the amazing thing, because you've got different people in the room with different ideas and different histories. And but I think one of the things about this podcast is you've got 3 different types of fans. You've got an international fan of a certain age, you've got an away fan of a certain age, and then you've essentially got a home fan who's old and decrepit, whose penis looks like a old Chinese recorder that got microwaved.
A giant old Chinese
with knobbles and horns on it. But I think that's the interesting thing, Mike, because for us to say it's an A grade, we've got all of these losses in there that people would say were diabolical.
And that's why you're talking nonsense, Max.
No, but it's not. It has to be an A because we didn't expect to be here.
Exactly.
Therefore, it's an A. I agree with you, Mike. It's an A-. It can't be an A. It's got to be an A- or a B+.
C+.
Right? That's sort of where I live. But I want to put the A there, Mike. I'm
the same. I've got to call it an A because we're performing better than I thought we would be doing. A lot of these young kids have, all right, Darren's saying like that. But like I say, I was winding you up last time. I'm trying to be honest with myself this time and honest with you guys. A lot of these young kids have settled in really quickly, better than what a lot of people thought. Players are starting to improve. You got to look at Partey. At the start of the season, everyone was slating him and everything else. But in the last 4 or 5 games, he's improved massively. And in the last game against City, Jesus Christ, he was probably one of the best players on the pitch, in my opinion. And sorry, I just read that.
I was waiting for why not to put up a Arteta out.
Yeah. But, and it's like, so you've got to see that as well. And you've got to think, with Ødegaard as well. No one really thought of him anything last season when he joined for 6 months, for the last part of the season in January. He wasn't really well thought of at the start of the season. Now look at him. He's making plays. He's an improved player. You've got to look at these players that we are looking at and think these guys are improving the team. So this is where I've come down to. Yes, it's an A-. I'm not going to say B+ because I think it deserves that A. Yeah. In my opinion, it does deserve that A. But to where Darren's going from saying it's a C,
it's a C+.
I don't get
anyone in the comments, just type in a letter for me.
Can I give you my justification? Max, you asked the question.
WTT, Humbo, why not? Just put a letter in there.
You asked the question. Let me justify, because this is where, look, last time we spoke, you wanted the manager sacked, and maybe
I never said that.
I've
never said the manager needs sacking.
Sorry, can we just?
I did last season, but this season I haven't.
You were both very negative about the whole situation last time we spoke, and now a few games later, where we've beaten the teams at the very bottom of the table and lost a game that we should have won, now suddenly you're in the A's. Come on, get some sensible thoughts in your head. Let me just tell you, we've had a season that we've played 20 games. We were absolutely trashed by Manchester City. We were absolutely trashed by Liverpool.
I was there.
We lost at Brentford. Yeah. We struggled for about 8 games after that, but managed to put a run together. And when we were talking about that run, we all agreed that it was a bit like Unai Emery's run, where we were getting results, but we weren't actually playing very well. Okay, then we lose at Old Trafford, a game that we were as good as, if not better than Manchester United. Then we lost to Everton, who are probably the worst team on form in the Premier League at the moment. They've won 1 in 16 games, and that was at home to us. Okay, then we have a little good run. We've beaten Southampton, we've beaten Norwich. Yeah, with some good results in there as well, Leicester and West Ham. That doesn't suddenly make this the perfect answer. If to be an A, I want us to be challenging for the title. And we are not challenging for the title. We are improving. We are doing better. We are no more than a C+, B- at best. But let's look at the project and really look. We have had a very
that's what I'm grading on. I'm grading on what I can see in front of me in this season so far. We've played 20 games. We're sat in 4th. That's what I'm grading on so far. That, you got to look at it in that sort of sense. I know I'm not silly enough to think that this team that we've got right now should be challenging for first place. We shouldn't be challenging for the title. I know that. I'm not silly enough. What I thought we was at the...
We just played the champions elect off the park. Why shouldn't we?
Yeah, we did. But
for 40 minutes. For 40 minutes.
Yeah, but
I'm not as we can play. And
No, what I'm saying is, yes, we did. We just lost to Man City for whatever reason. I'm not going to go into technicalities on this one, but you've got to look at it in the sense of where we are position wise. I'm not going on game by game. I'm going on where we are position wise and where we are with it there. And looking at the table right now, I see us sat in 4th place. That to me, for where we are now, like you said, in the position that we're in, the team not being really set in yet, we haven't got certain players that we need in certain positions where we're still, it's a learning squad, it's a young squad. How can you not rate it in the sense of an A or A minus or a B plus? Because no one expected us to be sat in 4th. Nobody. If you thought we was going to be sat in 4th in this position,
okay,
you're telling yourself absolutely stupid.
Let me ask you both a
What's
question.
more important? What's more important? Performance or position? Because position ultimately is the thing that dictates when we take the next step.
The two will go hand in hand over a long season.
You're essentially saying that they don't. You're saying, well, look at all these poor performances, therefore it's got to be a C minus.
If I'd have asked, let me ask you both a question. Grade us on the last podcast. What would you have graded us?
Oh, mate, we were a fucking U.
See, look. So
I thought you meant us. Sorry, I thought you meant us three, no. As in us three.
I would have graded us before this last run.
Do you remember after we got beat by Everton?
I would have given us a C because I think we were performing to the level that I expected us to this year, which would have finished as 6th or 7th.
Okay, so we go. So we go.
I'd probably go C plus.
Okay, yeah. So we go from a C and a C plus. We beat Southampton. We beat Norwich. We get beat by.
We lost to Southampton last year, and we lost to Norwich last year as well, didn't we? We lost
Norwich
both.
Norwich in the fucking. Norwich weren't even in the fucking league last year. You know nothing, knobhead. Norwich were in the fucking championship. Okay, we beat Southampton. And we beat Norwich. Who was the other games? We've beat West Ham. We've beaten Leicester, Leeds. And we've lost it. We've lost to Leeds. No, I'm counting Leicester. That was before all of this. Thank you for that. We've beaten Leeds, who hadn't won at the time for about 6 matches and had half a side out. We beat Southampton at home. Yeah, we would beat Norwich away. Those 3 games you'd expect us to win. So you've both taken us from a C plus or minus to an A minus on the back of winning 3 games that we should have won and losing to Manchester City.
Darren, when was the last time we got through a December period? When was the last time we got through a December period this clean? And this
December's not always our problem.
It's been a long fucking time since this period hasn't fucked us. Historically, we've actually been in better positions running into November and gone to fucking pieces once we've had the calendar bunch up on us.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Usually during the winter period, it's normally the time that we get fucked over by a lot of fucking teams.
Do you remember, was it the Southampton game where the cunt scored the worldie and then we never heard about that player ever again? It's like the best goal, the Bernard outside of the right boot, the Essien fucking shot. That was right in the heart of fucking December as well. And that buried us 1 year. So, like, I understand this sliding scale of, like, goodness and badness, like Spider-Man versus Venom. Like, I get this whole fucking thing, but I can't give the team less than an 8 because at the start of the season, if you told me we'd be in 4th after a bunch up Christmas period and playing Tottenham to own that 4th, I mean, and own it outright, as in bunched up games, everything. When we play Tottenham, we'll own that 4th spot. If you had have told me we'd do that, I'd have given you a hand job and looked you right in the fucking eyes while I
just wish you were my teacher. I could have fucking done fuck all, and then you'd have got me a fucking A grade.
Giving you an A grade for effort, Darren.
Yeah. Oh, he had that really good lesson. Do you remember? He got everything right once.
Well, that's how it works on a test, isn't it? You know, if you get things right on the test, you're happy days, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, you could do absolutely nothing for the full year at school. As long as you ace that test, you ace the test, you're happy days.
We're grading on the
whether
season.
or not you've got the bloody things written on your hand.
I was about to say,
doing it. You still get an A.
Mike, that happened to me in my my final history exam. I didn't fucking go to the test. I didn't go to class for 6 months. I smoked bongs in the park instead, and then I went in and got this incredible fucking score. And so naturally they questioned whether or not I'd cheated, which obviously I had cheated vigorously. But could
Sounds
they
about
prove
right.
it, Mike? They
You should have been
couldn't.
a referee.
I don't want to. Do you know what?
There's the Man City dig ref.
Can I just say I am deliberately not talking about the referee? Every fucking podcast had to spend 40 minutes at the start talking about referees.
Can I just add
talking
two
about
pence on it?
Arsenal being hard done by.
Max,
That's football. Get on
can
with
I just
it.
add my 2 pence? Because I brought up referees. My irritation is with the supporters, not the referee. You know, my irritation is with the supporters.
This concept that
doesn't matter.
Arsenal fans have that there's some kind of agenda against us.
But it's back to my C+. You know, you're giving us an A. We've just had our central defender who was having it not only a wonderful game, has had a wonderful season, get sent off and cost us that game. You know, this is not A or A minus material. This is stupidity. He's a dunce.
But it's a sliding scale, Darren.
Yes,
in the next game, I could easily drop us down to a bit. It's not like you have to set it and forget it. It's not
based on the
not
season.
a George Foreman grill.
It's based on the season so far.
Yeah, it's based on the season.
We've got to look at it. The next time I'll be grading is at the end of the season.
Yep. I think this is a halfway at this juncture.
It's like a mock exam. You know, this is what we're expecting. And then when we get to the season, this is what you really get.
All right, so let's talk about some things, because I've got some things. Or let's talk about some players, because as always on this podcast, we don't really talk about games. Everyone watched the fucking game. Everyone watched the City game. It was a big erection, a massive splooge, and then a huge letdown. We couldn't get up for round 2 in the bedroom. That game was much like my wedding night. I had a lot of plans. I had a lot of dreams for what might happen. And then when I got there, I could not rise to the occasion. It was purely that penetration had to be achieved to consummate. And after that, the deflation of my dick balloon could begin, which is exactly what happened. And so I really feel like the Arsenal City game is a marital night erection for a drunken fool. Best possible ideas, worst possible outcome. But I don't want to talk about that. Not the wedding so much. Fine to talk about my impotence. But I don't want to talk about the City game so much, because everyone's been there, everyone's talked about it, it's all done. But what I want to talk about is a couple of things, a couple of topics, a couple of ideas. A lot of podcasts haven't really spoken about this, and so I wanted to cover it off with you two guys. Emil Smith-Rowe has shown an incredible amount of maturity to be essentially the guy who got us into this position, and then be the guy who's actually been forced to step out of the team due to a small injury, where Ødegaard has come in and is now very heavily cementing his role, predominantly in his relationship with Lacazette. How do we perceive this kind of rolling out over the remainder of the season? Do we see eventually it getting to ESR and him sort of crumbling a little bit, his body language losing a little bit? Or do we think that with the imminent additional games of whether it be Europa League or whether it be Champions League football, that these guys are young enough and smart enough to see that there's enough steak on the plate for everyone to have a meal?
I don't know. I think with the ESR is showing great maturity in that sort of sense. You know, you often see players kicking off somewhere along the line or saying something that they need to play. Look at the state of Lukaku at the minute with Chelsea. You know, all he did is talk. You know, he's talking about how he wants to move back to Inter Milan and stuff. So, you know, for Smith-Rowe to be this mature at such a young age, it's brilliant for us. And you know, and he's coming on. He's pretty much a super sub as well, in fairness to him. But yeah, you're right in the sense of, yes, it's good. You know, he's got us to this point. He's put us in this position, but he's happily bowed out in that sort of sense to come on as that super sub and be that guy we can rely on as well in that sort of central mid area, that central forward area where we have that 3 base play with either, you know, with at the minute with Martinelli, Ødegaard and Saka. and come on for either and any of them. He can move on to any of that line as well, which is great for us.
Can we give credit to the manager for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that I don't think that maturity comes, like it must come internally from the player, but the manager has to be able to get a squad to all buy in together and to all be able to come in and come out. Even look at Martinelli. He was nowhere to be seen in the first part of the season and people were banging their drum. And Arteta said in a press conference early on the season, he's got things that he's working on. We see his talent, but he needs to do the things for the team that we want him to. And then he integrates Martinelli into the team, and Martinelli does everything that he's asked of. So yes, Darren, the answer to that is I do give the manager quite a lot of credit.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I agree. You can't not give the manager credit on that sort of sense with this, with the state of the squad at the moment as well. The attitude of the players and everything that's come along with it. You can't not say the manager hasn't done a good job in that sort of sense. If people are saying that he hasn't done a good job because of, with the attitudes and stuff, barring maybe one with Aubameyang, but that's a completely different matter. You got to take that one bad apple. The rest of them, they're all fine and loving the games and playing well.
I think Aubameyang's situation is absolutely key to it. It's absolutely key. Club captain, most expensive or most highly paid player, and he's fucked him off because he didn't buy in like the rest of the team is buying in. And when he's got people working their nuts off in training, he wants to reward those players with minutes in the first team, minutes on the pitch. And when you've got somebody who doesn't seem to care as much as everybody else, then what a good decision. Let's get him out of the side, make an example of him. And it's given an opportunity for Martinelli to come into the side and play exceptionally well. And every time Smith Rowe has come on, he's played exceptionally well. And you ask about Emil Smith Rowe. I asked you two this question. I don't know if it was the last podcast, certainly on a previous one. And it's my favourite question. When you look into the future and you look at Emil Smith Rowe and Saka, they're joined at the hip. They come up through the academy together. They're both stars in this young Arsenal side. In 5 years' time, who's going to be the superstar out of those two?
Do you remember my answer to this question?
I think you said Ainsley Maitland-Niles.
No, I didn't say Ainsley Maitland-Niles. I said Gabriel at centre back. And it was months and months ago. And I said by the end of this season,
Saka and ESR, and you
I
say
said
Gabriel.
by the end of this season, you'll be talking about Gabriel.
Yeah, but I'm not talking. You just missed the whole point. These two have come through together. They're playing the same. They're the same age. They've come through together. Saka's in the team at the moment. Emil Smith Rowe's out, but I see that Emil Smith Rowe is going to be the future at Arsenal. I think
if you look back through my tweets over the last couple of weeks, Darren, I've been tweeting vigorously that whatever contract Saka is on, it needs to be made a big boys contract at the end of the year, because I think that we've got one of the top 3 youth talents in the world at the club. And I think that on the balance of this season, it's getting to a point where we have to stop talking about Saka being young, because he's not just good for his age anymore. He's good full fucking stop.
We don't have to worry about keeping these players as long as the progression continues. This team,
but the Sharks are going to circle. The Sharks are going to circle, Darren. I never thought Cesc would leave us. He left us.
If we are competing for the Premier League title and for the Champions League, then those boys will want to do it at Arsenal. The key is to keep this squad together and to add one. I said a striker was top of the shopping list. I haven't changed my mind. If we can add one, maybe two, sift out again. We've got another sift to do. There's still some players that don't fit into this. And those players will stay at the club because they would like to win the league with Arsenal. And we've got some time to do that.
Is there a worry, if there is a remaining worry about Arteta, because we're not all why not sentiments and want to burn him at the fucking stake or throw him in a river and see if he sinks or floats to work out whether or not he is in fact a witch? But is there some fear even from people who appreciate and respect Arteta and can respect and appreciate what he's done? Is there some fear that he maybe can only manage a very specific type of personality, and that if we are going to eat at the top table, as to say, you need to bring in some of these what's the word I'm looking for? You know, this top talent kind of personality. You know, these Aubameyang kind of personalities. Is there some worry? Fifth time I've asked the question as I talk over myself. Is there some worry that he can only manage this very, very specific type of player?
Possibly, but that's okay. I've got no issue with that because it's very key to buy in the right sort of player. We've seen that he hasn't got on with Ozil. He hasn't got on with well, in this case now Aubameyang. There's some players along the way that he hasn't got on with, can't work with. So it's just key to recruitment. The mentality of the players we have brought in is superb. Tomiyasu, Aaron Ramsdale, Gabriel. You know, these players are really fit the personality mold that we need. You know, incredibly so. They've hit the ground running. They're working their nuts off. They really believe in what the manager's trying to do. That's got to be the type of personnel we've got to attract to the club. We are not. If we went and bought a £70 million, if we bought, let's say Lukaku fell out of Chelsea and we had 100 million to spend, it would be a disaster for this football club. We don't want to buy an Mbappe. We don't want to buy
a Ronaldo.
Look what Ronaldo has done at Manchester United.
Can you win everything without those types of players? Would we have been the team that we were without Henry? Do you not need one mercurial
but Henry is the perfect example of Arsene Wenger's tenure at the club. Thierry Henry was a substitute. You know, he wasn't playing first team football.
True.
He was a young kid. He was a winger. He was going nowhere. Patrick Vieira was on the bench somewhere as well. You know, Henry was on the bench. They weren't getting first team football. We had a manager that saw the right personality, people that were dedicated, that would work hard. Arteta is building what Arsene Wenger built 20 years ago. It's beautiful to watch. He has got rid of the mentality. The bad eggs in that team are going one by one, and we've still got some sifting to do. We still can't get rid. We still own, you know, players Torreira and Guendouzi. You know, these are players that we've still got in our books out on loan that are going at the end of the year. You know, he has got rid of those players. I liked Guendouzi as a player. You know, he was I thought was a real talent. He didn't have the attitude that is required by Mikel Arteta to succeed at this club. As long as he is at the helm, I think he will continue to get the right style of player in. And that's what he's doing so well. You got to remember, he managed at Manchester City, or he was assistant manager at Manchester City with their superstars. So I'm sure he's aware of how to handle them, but he's selected what he wants in this side, and it's working. I know you're unhappy. I know you wanted to sack him 6 weeks ago, but it's working. You know, it's a long project. End of next year, that's when we'll judge.
Mike, we're currently hammering down the straight in fourth gear, and we need to find those next two gears to kind of propel us into the future, into the next part. We are over a second behind. We're not quite in DRS zone to overtake the teams in front of us. Mike, what are the gear shifts that we need to make whether it be in this new year or whether it be into next year? What are the gear shifts that we need to make to be able to propel us forwards?
That's a good question, actually, to be fair. I think Darren's already mentioned one, in the sense of we definitely need that striker. We do need a prolific striker, and be that a young, upcoming striker, I think, you know, compared to what you guys were just talking about a minute ago, with the right attitude and the attitude that the manager wants at the minute, and, you know, to develop at the club, then yeah, I'm all for that. You know, it can't do much harm. I wouldn't personally. I don't think I would like a big profile name for 70 odd million like Lukaku. You know, you're always going to have issues with these kind of players, and that's the other issue with them ones as well. You've always got them issues with them. You know, look at Aubameyang. We bought him for 50 million. He had a couple of good seasons, and now look at him. You know, just because he's not buying into whatever's going on at the club, or for whatever reason, when he signed that contract, he's just not seemed to have gone anywhere with it. But to get that next, to get to that next level, I do feel we need another central midfielder, preferably in a defensive style central midfielder. I don't.
You don't
As
have
much
to say
as
the
much
name,
as we
you don't have to
no
say the name of the player, but are you
no
saying
no. I'm
that
just saying.
they
I'm just saying. Like,
think
I'm not saying the
and
name of the player, but I just feel we need an upgrade to the sense of what we've got at the moment.
so you're saying a Kante-esque player to allow Partey to sit
Preferably,
in front?
yes, because
Yeah.
if you look at that Kante-esque player, that Kante-esque player will win you trophies.
Darren, you had a question, young man.
All I was going to say, you're asking, you say we're challenging along in fourth gear, and what do we need to do to go on to the next step? What's been the difference? I mean, for me, it's fairly obvious. The difference in the last game or two, maybe 3 or 4, compared to the rest of the season, was Thomas Partey has come to the party finally. Is that not fair? You know,
I think it's more than that.
I've been so critical of Thomas Partey, so critical, because I haven't seen anything in his play that warrants to me the big signing on fee. I haven't seen anything that's made me think, why is everyone so excited about this player? In the last 3 or 4 games, I've started to see it. And in the last game, we had somebody who bossed the midfield, and suddenly that team all clicked. It all worked. So what do we need to improve from here? We need Thomas Partey to become a consistent, regular, top-class performer week in, week out, which is what all of the others in that team are doing. We need him to start to hit form. And then alongside him, we need someone who is going to be the same. At the moment, we've got Granit Xhaka, who's performing really well, but I think we'd all like an upgrade. Yeah. I just seen it there. Digi Scott, hopefully a Declan Rice. How about Declan Rice? You know, I mean, to me, if we could afford, and if he wanted to come,
Darren, is he worth 80 million? Because that's what he'll end up going for.
I think I've got a lot of West Ham fans, and I've actually been to see West Ham with them quite a lot lately. I think Declan Rice is probably the best midfielder in the country at the moment. I think he is by far. The West Ham fans, you know, just to say they're so scared that someone is going to go.
If I'm going to be honest here, if you're going to go for that sort of type, I think I'd rather go for a Calvin Phillips at Leeds. You know, he knows how to run that team. He knows he's a very good player, and he's a very good defensive player. And not only that, he's got a great fucking pass on
him. See, I was looking. Who's this bloke from France we're looking at? I was watching his videos the other day. This bloke from Lille. Everyone's saying we're going to fucking get someone in the comments. Who the fuck am I talking about?
Someone from France. It narrows it down, but someone from France.
I don't think it was Kessie. Is it Sanchez? Renato Sanchez?
Oh, Renato Sanchez.
Right. I was looking at his videos the other day, and all I could think was, I don't think you're the fit. I don't think you're the partner to get the best out of Partey. Thing is that I'm seeing with Thomas Partey, I think Thomas Partey needs someone to give him the freedom to be able to utilize his passing game more. And I get that, you know, people are saying, oh, well, Xhaka's the one sitting deep. Xhaka's not really sitting deep. Partey is playing box to box, and Xhaka is playing quite safe in kind of the middle ground as well. So, look, for me, I think I'm with Darren. I think you need a genuine... You know what
I'm still hoping that Sambi Lokonga will be that man.
Can I just say I hate to say this, but I would have loved to have seen Torreira and Partey play together, because Torreira, for me, even though when Torreira was playing a genuine kind of sweeping up DM sideline to sideline across his box position, Torreira was amazing for us. A much maligned Arsenal player. His first 6-month little stint at Arsenal was fantastic. I also think, as much as I hate to say it, and I don't think his personality would fit, I also think a Guendouzi style player would play quite well with Thomas Partey, not Guendouzi exact. So it's an interesting thing. But look, we're all talking about the gear that changes, the gear that moves us forward is a midfield gear. You know, most people would say we've got to go sign that £80 million striker. But
no, I think the striker
and midfield gear is important.
I haven't watched a single YouTube clip of him, but the guy who's scoring all the goals in Italy, who's 21, that we've apparently made an offer of £60 million for.
Volvacek?
No.
Valachuk?
I thought it was, well, maybe. Just sounds like you're calling the chickens in from your farm.
Yeah, look, Volvacek. Valho. Fuck you, Russ.
Vlahovic.
Vlahovic. Thank you very much. Who was that? Vlahovic. That was Russell. I don't know anything about him as a footballer, but what I like the fact that we're looking to spend a lot of money on someone who is 21 years old. I like that. I like the fact that this must fit Arteta's bigger plan of somebody. This team, Arteta must be looking at this team. He's building a team that's going to compete for the Champions League in 3 years' time. You know, that's got to be what he's looking to do. He's inherited a lot of shit. He's inherited a lot of misery, and he's slowly putting together a side of young, fresh-faced, enthusiastic, fucking good footballers. If that striker fits the bill, somebody who's in that sort of Martinelli, Saka, Emil Smith Rowe age group, and yet he's already scoring goals at the highest level, I think that would be a really good signing.
Yeah, I'm going to say, when you say about Bissouma, I don't think the person who he was fiddling about with is not going to let him come to Arsenal, to be honest.
Yeah, people still keep talking about Bissouma. I'm like, I don't think he might fit the culture. Somehow, I think it might be
just
with the culture.
You know, I think he's taken a leaf out of Mendy's book from Man City, to be honest.
Yeah. Look, I think okay, so I know
we've been sorry. I've just had a look now, and I know I've just been looking now. I forgot his name, if I'm being honest with you. But we're looking at Alexander Isak as well. Swedish. He's only 22 years old, and he's at Real Sociedad. I don't know if there's talks about him already moved, or I'm not too sure. But I know
I looked him up the other day, Mike, and he is essentially a faster, slightly more athletic Lacazette. So not going to deliver you more than 13, 14 goals a year. But
I thought he was a midfielder, wasn't he?
No, he's a forward.
To just sort of track back to what Darren said about Thomas Partey, there's actually a threefold thing that has happened with our spine as well that's allowed Thomas Partey to do that. And that's bringing Lacazette into the team, who drops off, who doesn't run away from the midfield. It's bringing Ødegaard into the team, who is more of a connective number 10 rather than a running 10. So I think when you had ESR in the team and you had Aubameyang in the team, the reason why ESR couldn't work in behind him is because they're just both running away from each other and then no one to link. We had these problems where people who were going to the games were telling me you could physically see the donut. You could physically see the hole in the middle of the park. Well, Lacazette coming deeper has allowed his two wing forwards to pincer in and go ahead of him. It's allowed Ødegaard to come out. It's pushed the wing backs up because the wing backs are pushed up, because the wingers are pushed up, because the striker has dropped off. It then means that the line is higher. When the line is higher, it's allowed Partey, when he's getting on the ball, to be on the centre square and beyond the centre square, not back behind the centre square trying to work out what the fuck to do with it, playing triangles with his right back. It's been the bringing of Lacazette into this team and the removal of Aubameyang. Now, whether that was attitude-based and people are saying, oh, well, maybe moving Aubameyang has changed the attitude of the team, he got chinned. You know, it could just be that this tactical piece, this one small tactical piece of having a striker who drops off, has changed the whole scope for everything, and that's kind of dragged everyone forward and pushed them higher up the pitch.
Possibly, Max. But isn't there two things? I mentioned one, the thing that's that's made a difference. In our last podcast, I said that this year playing with Aubameyang is playing with 10 men. And I was very critical of Aubameyang because I watch football, and if he's not scoring goals, he doesn't add to our team. I mean, that's something I think we all agree on.
I've been saying that for ever since we started on Aubameyang, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, so I think we all agreed on it. If Aubameyang's not scoring, it's like playing with 10 men. Well, by removing Aubameyang and Thomas Partey's improved performances, and we've added an 11th man now in Lacazette, who's been extremely good. His hold-up play has improved incredibly for somebody at his age. His improvement in a short space of time has been incredible, because that's been our problem all season. He's connecting the front to the back, isn't it? We've looked very solid this year at the back, but we haven't been able to drive that ball forward into the attack, because Thomas Partey's been hopeless. Xhaka's been Xhaka, and we haven't had anything. Now with a Thomas Partey that's playing well and a Lacazette that's actually holding the ball up, suddenly it's all working. Give me an upgrade on Xhaka.
But if you go back on previous podcasts, I mentioned about this with Lacazette a while ago, about how he brings the wingers into play. over than what Aubameyang does. I mentioned it a while back. I don't know if it was even last year when we was playing in the cup when me and Corey were doing a show. I think we mentioned it then as well in the cups. We were playing better in the cups than we were in the league, and this is the difference between because we was playing with Lacazette, we had Saka, and we had Martinelli, or we had Emil Smith-Rowe, and we just seemed to going forward. We just seemed to link better, and now that's come in, and now he's played in the league. We've noticed a huge difference. Lacazette is pretty much has been a very key player since he's come back into the squad, and Aubameyang's been ostracized out. So,
can I just say how
but
much
bringing that in,
armband
but that's what I mean. But if we got a player like, say, for instance, like you said with Isaac, he's only going to be a 15 goal a year player. But if you're getting 15 goals from this player and you're getting 15 goals from Martinelli, for argument's sake, and 15 goals from Saka and 15 goals from ESR, who cares about having a striker that's going to give you 30 goals a season when you're getting goals from everywhere else?
Reminding you about Pires, starts reminding you about Lundberg, starts reminding you about Wiltord. Back when we were getting 10 goals from these guys.
Everywhere on the pitch.
15 goals. Yeah.
Everywhere on the pitch.
You're a threat everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think in modern football, because we were built up, we were born into a world where you had 30, 35 goal a year strikers, right? Our peak period was Van Nistelrooy's, Drogba's, Louis Saha's, Thierry Henry's, these guys who racked up the goals at such a high rate. Football has kind of gone away from that. I mean, other than Aguero in the last 5 or 6 years, I can't. Oh, well, Harry Kane.
Jamie Vardy.
Yeah. Actually, I might be talking out of my ass.
Yeah, you are talking shit.
But you got to look at it. It's the older style. It is that older style.
He's a winger.
It's that older style player, isn't it? When you think about it, Mo Salah's more of a winger. So, but this guy's. Mo Salah's a freak.
Scoring 20+ goals year in, year out. So.
Yeah, but then again,
so we can still do with a 30+ goal a year striker.
Yes,
let's not say we don't need
it. Talking nonsense as usual, Max.
Yeah, sometimes the words are coming out, and I can smell the shit on my own breath as the shit.
Well, if you look at, say, for instance, in argument's sake, is probably one of the best strikers that the league's seen for a long time in Aguero. In his last couple of years at Man City, he wasn't getting anywhere near 20 goals a season. I don't think anyway.
But he actually changed his style. Don't forget, because Pep benched him.
But you got to look at Pep changed his style.
Yeah.
And the way Man City played.
You know what? With Aubameyang, it felt for me this year that Arteta asked Aubameyang to change his style. And that Aubameyang did, to an extent, change his style. He definitely ran more. He definitely pressed a bit more. He definitely tracked a bit more. But it feels to me that where Aubameyang fell down is that took away from the thing that he cares about. And the thing that Aubameyang cares about, for me, was never team. It was never we. It was always I.
Yeah.
He was a goal scorer. He needed to get a certain amount of goals. And as he put in that effort at the start of the season and he wasn't getting the goal return, I think that he fell to pieces with that. The captain's armband never suited him. It never suited his personality. Can I just say
it was pointless giving it to him. I think the only reason why he got the captain's armband is through default because there was no one else in the squad.
But can I just say that the captain's armband suits Lacazette? There haven't been many people who've had the armband over the years that I've looked at and I've said, that really suits you. That really suits your style of play. It suits your personality. I like Lacazette with the armband on. He wasn't someone, when we were talking about captains going back ages of podcasts ago, and, it was like Bellerins and Holdings and guys like that we were talking about. We never really mentioned Lacazette. We never really gave him a look in. But I've got to say, I've got a huge amount of respect for what Lacazette has done. He's not going to stay at the club. And he hasn't just done it for us, but he's obviously done it because he's part of us. But I will say that this last couple of months from Lacazette, and he will continue until the end of the year because that's the type of player he is, I would say that Lacazette has just made sure that he does not go back to France and finish out his contract as an essentially nothing. He's done enough now that clubs are going to look at him, and he may end up at an Atleti. He may end up at a decent Spanish club, a decent Italian club, and be able to go and win something. And I'll give him a big pat on the back and a big hug and say, love having you.
Quick question, Max. It's relevant to this, although we've just gone to an hour. quick question on this. If Lacazette continues to play at this standard for the rest of the season, retains his place, we don't buy anybody in January, and he continues to perform to the same level he is now, is there a good argument for giving him a couple of year extension?
I said 2 weeks ago I'd give him a 2-year contract, because whoever you bring in, right, we're a team of kids. And one of the things, and I'll give Xhaka some credit here as well, one of the things that I've quite liked about bringing Lacazette back into the team is that now you've got Lacazette, Partey, and Xhaka as kind of 3 older heads surrounded by this dynamite of youth. I now think that if you took Xhaka out and you put another kid in there, it unbalances the leadership on the pitch somehow. And if you take Lacazette out and you put another 21-year-old kid in, I worry that if you go so deep into youth that you don't have the older, mature heads to carry that youth, to pull them back into line and essentially allow them to be the Martinellis and to be the Sakas. So I would absolutely offer Lacazette a 2-year deal. I think we offered him maybe a 1-year extension. It wasn't enough for him. He's on good money. He'll be on, if he extends his contract on what he's on now, I think he's on about £150,000. I doubt that he'll go, even on a Bossman, I have doubts that he'd get more than £150,000 in Italy or £150,000 in Spain. So I feel that if you offered him the armband, if you gave him a 2-year contract, I feel that if we're doing well and the project is looking good and we're bringing in good players, that he may look at that and say, no, you know what? I sat here, I got brought in as the main man. Aubameyang got brought in above me and I outlasted him and I took my spot back and I've got the captain's armband.
Okay.
I fear that if we ship out all of our maturity for dynamite youth, we end up with too much dynamite and not enough boat to carry the dynamite.
So following on from that, so good answer. Following on for that, Mike, with age and experience being quite key to this young team, Aaron Ramsey, would you sign him back at the club?
No.
Good. What a lovely way
Hell
to
no.
finish.
I know there's a big talk about, even Cesc Fabregas coming back and Jack Wilshere. I did make a point saying, yes, I think Jack Wilshere makes some kind of sense if you got him back now on a pay-as-you-play for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
He's been training with the squad for the last few months now. He knows the ins and outs of the squad at the moment. And I think with Thomas Partey going to the African Cup of Nations, it makes some kind of sense to get him on a pay-as-you-play.
And Jack's a central midfielder. He is a central midfielder. He fits the bill. He's got a passing range. He's apparently fit. And he's in like the top, what was I reading the other day? He's in the top 3 or the top 4 for all of the metrics in training, like running meters, repeat sprint, all this stuff. Like apparently he's
been doing really, really well with the training regime that we've got with him, because he's training with the first team squad. So he does know the ins and outs of what's going on at the moment. So it makes some kind of sense to get him back on a page.
Ramsey makes no sense.
When you go to Ramsey and Fabregas, do one. No.
Because Ramsey will come in and will immediately, whether he tries to or not, he will immediately take up a leadership role. He will immediately be a guy who people look to and they say, wow. So regardless of the money, regardless of whether you got him for less than £100,000 a week, it doesn't make sense to go and throw a spanner into something that's being created. It doesn't make any sense. You're importing an old-fashioned and old Arsenal mentality into a team that is driving forward to have a new mentality.
Good. But also, can I just make a quick... Sorry, Darren, just make a quick point on that as well. Because Partey's going to the African Cup of Nations, with bringing Jack Wilshere into it as well, it doesn't upset the apple cart too much either, in the sense because he's still here and he's got the experience and he's a Hale End boy as well. So he knows Arsenal, he knows how it works. He's played with Arteta.
He'd be good for the young boys. And I'm sure he is good for the young boys because they can look at him and be like, you played against Barcelona and were essentially the next fucking Iniesta, the next Xavi. You were England's wonder kid. You were an Arsenal wonder kid and you went to pieces. So it should give them.
Look, I was just going to agree with everything you said, and I really like the fact all three of us agreeing on this new year when we're all happy and we're all looking forward. But Wilshere didn't go up to pieces. Wilshere got an incredibly bad tackle in a game against Manchester United, which fucked him up. Fella didn't even get a fucking booking. Disgraceful challenge, and he hasn't been the same since. Not sure if he'll ever be able to play at the top level. Personally, I'm not sure it's quite such a good idea.
I think Wilshere could absolutely give you 20 minutes of good football off the bench, and that's what I don't think if we were signing him on a short-term contract, we'd be saying Wilshere's going to start. Lokonga would start, but Lokonga can't play every minute. And if Wilshere can come on and give you 20 minutes and pass the ball around and move it, great, because there's no El Neni there to come on. Ainsley Maitland-Niles' head is gone. I was particularly
Maitland-Niles looks like to be heading to Roma anyway.
I was particularly pissed off with Maitland-Niles at the end of the City game when the camera panned to him and all of the Arsenal team and all of the bench were in a puddle on the floor. And Ainsley was going up and hugging the City guys with a big smile on his face. Now, I know he's a good time guy. I know people handle things differently. But I thought the optics of that was absolutely disgusting. I was like, fuck you. I've always loved you, but jog on. Your mentality's for the team.
Well, he's going out the door anyway.
Can we just say that Arteta, one of the things we've all agreed, Arteta's playing people based on their performances in training. He keeps talking about it. Talked about Martinelli deserving his break. Talking about Smith Rowe can't get in because so many players are performing every day in, day out in training. Ainsley Maitland-Niles obviously hasn't done that because he came into the side, played okay, but he's got that lackadaisical attitude, and I bet it's the same in training. I'm sure Arteta looks at him and thinks, fuck's sake, he's another one of those that's got to go. Replace him with somebody who's hungry and wants to play for this club. Good way to finish, eh, Max?
I think that's a very good way to finish. All in all, boys, I think it's an interesting time for Arsenal. It's a great time to be an Arsenal fan. It's a great time to stop being a cunt about Arsenal and to stop putting cunty fucking posts up all the time.
Fucking why not? Fucking why not in our comments? Joined us halfway through. Listen to the first 10 minutes. Why not? Listen to the first 10 minutes. Stop your negativity. Don't care if you're just trying to wind me up. It's fucking working.
Shaka's still a cunt.
He is still a cunt. There's nothing you can do about being a cunt. We will move on from him. And we'll be back every week again now, I assume, because I'm back from holiday and everything's happening. Listen, subscribe.
Can I just say, I'll let you wrap up, but can I just say there's been loads of comments today. I'm going to have a good read through them when we're finished. But thanks, everyone. There's fucking hundreds of comments on this show today, and I haven't had a chance to read through them. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Really, really, really
mate,
makes it a lot easier.
I said to someone the other day, we might not be the biggest podcast in the world. We might not have the hugest listener base, but we get the same guys at the same time every week, and they come into the show and they all have great opinions and great comments. So, if you fancy listening to an indie podcast where occasionally homosexual penis jokes get made from everyone on the panel, not just from me. There's a general collection of ideas here. But if you like that and you don't mind swear words, then Ask Bros is where you need to live. Now, I am going to try and put the video up the first time. What's it in? Banners? Nope, it's not in banners. Fuck. It's in brand.
And he fucked
and I am not going to fuck this up. Good night. This is an Ask Brothers production. Follow us on Twitter @The Ask Brothers. Get all our content on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and SoundCloud @Ask Bros. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button.